Have you ever wondered why certain words cut deeper than knives? Why some rejections feel like they're tearing your very soul apart, while others barely register? And most importantly, is there a path to move through life without being perpetually wounded by the inevitable collisions with others? Today, we're exploring what might be one of the most misunderstood aspects of human psychology, our relationship with emotional pain, through the lens of Carl Jung, a man who devoted his life to mapping the deepest territories of the human psyche. But I should issue a gentle warning before we begin. This isn't about numbing yourself to life's difficulties or building an impenetrable emotional fortress. Such an approach would be not only impossible, but fundamentally undesirable. Instead, what I'm offering is something far more valuable, a roadmap for transforming how you experience hurt, converting it from a destructive force into a catalyst for profound growth. There is no coming to consciousness without pain, Jung wrote. A sobering thought, perhaps, but within it lies the key to our journey today. For Jung, emotional pain wasn't something to be avoided at all costs. It was a messenger, often the only one capable of cutting through our defenses to deliver vital information about ourselves and our world. Consider how we typically respond to emotional wounds. Most of us have been conditioned to run from our pain. We distract ourselves with work, with substances, with relationships, with endless scrolling, essentially with whatever numbing agent we can find. We construct elaborate defense mechanisms to avoid feeling vulnerable. But in Jung's framework, this approach doesn't protect us. It actually amplifies our suffering in the long run. Think of emotional pain like a persistent knock at your door. You can turn up the music to drown out the sound, you can pretend you don't hear it, you can even barricade the entrance. But the visitor remains, and the knocking will only grow louder. Eventually, the door may break down entirely. What if instead you simply opened the door? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, Jung warned. And here lies our first crucial insight. We cannot transcend what we refuse to acknowledge. When we experience pain that seems disproportionate to the situation, it's rarely about the present circumstance alone. Instead, it's about what Jung called complexes, clusters of emotionally charged memories, thoughts, and patterns organized around a common theme. Think about the last time someone's casual comment left you feeling disproportionately hurt or angry. Perhaps a colleague mentioned you seemed tired, and suddenly you felt a surge of rage or shame that seemed to come from nowhere. Or maybe a friend canceled plans, and you spiraled into feelings of abandonment that far exceeded the actual situation. In these moments, you're not just reacting to what's happening now, you're responding to every similar wound from your past that hasn't been properly acknowledged and integrated. The present trigger is simply activating an old, unhealed complex. This brings us to one of Jung's most profound contributions to psychology, the concept of the shadow. Everyone carries a shadow, Jung wrote, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. The shadow contains all the parts of ourselves that we've denied, repressed, or disowned, often because they didn't fit with our self-image or weren't acceptable in our family or culture. These might include our anger, our vulnerability, our ambition, our sexuality, or any other aspect of our humanity that we've been taught to suppress. When we refuse to acknowledge these shadow elements, they don't simply disappear. Instead, they operate autonomously from the unconscious, often erupting in moments when we're most vulnerable, or when someone else triggers them. Have you ever found yourself inexplicably irritated by someone who embodies a quality you've denied in yourself? Perhaps you're secretly envious of a friend's success, but have disowned your own ambition, so their achievements trigger unexpected resentment. Or maybe you've suppressed your own vulnerability for so long that someone else's emotional openness makes you deeply uncomfortable. Jung called this phenomenon projection, the unconscious attribution to others of qualities or emotions that actually belong to us, especially those we've disowned. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, Jung observed. The person who hurts you most deeply may be activating a wound that you've been carrying long before they entered your life. So what does this mean for our quest to never feel hurt again? It suggests that the path forward isn't about developing thicker skin or avoiding potential triggers. It's about developing a more conscious relationship with all aspects of our psyche, including those we've tried to leave behind. Let me illustrate this with a common scenario. Imagine you've been passed over for a promotion at work. On the surface, your hurt seems straightforward: disappointment about the missed opportunity, and perhaps some wounded pride. But if your reaction feels overwhelming, like it's touching something deeper, Jung would invite you to look beneath the surface. Perhaps this rejection activates an old complex around not being good enough, a belief formed in childhood when your efforts never seemed to earn your parents' approval. Or maybe it triggers a shadow aspect of your competitive nature that you've denied because you've tried to see yourself as someone who values cooperation above all. When you recognize these deeper dimensions, something remarkable happens. The hurt doesn't magically disappear, but it begins to transform. It becomes information rather than just pain, a signal pointing toward what needs attention and integration in your psyche. This brings us to a powerful Jungian concept: individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who we truly are by integrating all aspects of our personality into a cohesive whole. For Jung, psychological health wasn't about conforming to some external standard of normality. It was about becoming increasingly conscious of our unique psychological makeup and allowing all parts of ourselves to find expression in a balanced way. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, Jung wrote. And sometimes the path to becoming requires us to move through, rather than around, our pain. When we run from emotional hurt, we fragment ourselves. When we face it with consciousness, we move toward wholeness. Now, this might all sound rather abstract, so let's explore what this might look like in practice, in your everyday life. First, it means developing what Jung would call a witness consciousness, the ability to observe your emotional reactions without becoming completely identified with them. When you feel hurt, rather than immediately reacting or suppressing the feeling, you might ask, what exactly am I feeling right now? Where do I feel this in my body? What does this remind me of? This slight separation creates a crucial space between stimulus and response, a space where choice becomes possible. Consider how different this is from our usual approach. When someone criticizes us, we typically either lash out defensively or internalize the criticism completely. Both reactions come from being fully identified with our hurt. But what if you could step back and observe both the criticism and your reaction to it with curiosity rather than judgment? In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order, Jung wrote. Your emotional reactions contain valuable information if you're willing to look for it. Second, working with hurt in a Jungian framework involves conscious engagement with your shadow. This doesn't mean acting out every impulse or embracing harmful behaviors. Instead, it means acknowledging the full spectrum of your humanity and finding healthy channels for expression. If you've disowned your anger, for instance, the goal isn't to become an angry person, but to recognize when anger arises and allow it appropriate expression rather than pretending it doesn't exist. This might mean setting clearer boundaries in relationships or expressing disagreement more directly instead of seething with resentment. The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, Jung observed. Working with it requires both courage and humility. Courage to face what you've denied, and humility to accept your own complexity. As you integrate these disowned aspects, you'll likely find that you become less reactive when others trigger them. The person who could once ruin your entire day with a thoughtless comment gradually loses their power over your emotional state. Third, transforming your relationship with hurt involves recognizing and reclaiming your projections. When someone pushes your buttons, ask yourself, what might I be seeing in this person that actually belongs to me? What disowned part of myself might they be reflecting? This isn't about blaming yourself for others' behavior or absolving them of responsibility. It's about reclaiming your projections so that your reactions become more conscious and proportionate. For example, if you find yourself intensely judgmental of someone's selfishness, you might explore whether you've disowned your own healthy self-interest. If you're constantly hurt by others' lack of appreciation, you might examine whether you've fully acknowledged your own need for recognition. As Jung wrote, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. When you reintegrate these projected aspects, interactions that once felt wounding begin to lose their sting. Now, let me share a powerful technique derived from Jung's work that you can begin practicing today. He called it active imagination, and it involves engaging directly with the different parts of your psyche, including those that carry pain. The next time you feel hurt, try this approach. First, find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and focus on the feeling of hurt. Notice where you feel it in your body, and simply be with that sensation, neither pushing it away nor becoming completely identified with it. Next, allow this feeling to take form in your imagination. What shape does it have? What color? If this hurt could speak, what would it say? You might even write down this dialogue, allowing both your conscious self and this hurt part to express themselves fully. In each of us, there is another whom we do not know, Jung noted. By engaging with our hurt in this way, we begin to know these other aspects of ourselves, to understand their concerns and needs. The goal isn't to make the hurt disappear, but to transform your relationship with it, moving from unconscious reaction to conscious response, from fragmentation to integration. Another powerful Jungian approach involves working with dreams. Jung saw dreams not as random neural firings, but as communications from the unconscious, often highlighting what we're neglecting in our waking lives. If you find yourself repeatedly hurt in similar ways, pay attention to your dreams. They may reveal shadow aspects asking for integration or complexes that need healing. Keep a dream journal by your bed and record any dreams upon waking, looking for patterns over time. Dreams are the guiding words of the soul, Jung wrote. Why should I henceforth not love my dreams and not make their riddling images into objects of my daily consideration? By engaging with both your waking hurts and your dream life, you build a bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind, what Jung called the transcendent function, the psyche's natural tendency to seek balance and wholeness. We've covered considerable ground in our exploration of Jung's approach to emotional pain. We've discussed complexes and projections, the shadow and individuation, witness consciousness, and the transcendent function. But perhaps the most vital insight is this: the path to freedom from hurt isn't found in perfect protection or complete avoidance, but in developing a more conscious relationship with all aspects of your experience. In Jung's own words, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. This doesn't mean that hurt won't touch you. It surely will, but it no longer holds the same power to define or derail you. Instead, it becomes integrated into the larger tapestry of your becoming, neither idealized nor demonized, but acknowledged as part of the rich complexity of being human. Consider this. What if the experiences that hurt you most are actually doorways to your greatest growth? What if, as Jung suggested, the wound is the place where the light enters you? This perspective doesn't romanticize suffering or suggest we should seek it out. Rather, it acknowledges that in a world of relationships and attachments, hurt is inevitable, but suffering, in the sense of being trapped in unconscious patterns, is optional. There is no birth of consciousness without pain, Jung reminded us, but on the other side of that pain lies the possibility of genuine transformation, not because the hurt magically disappears, but because our relationship to it fundamentally changes. When we run from emotional pain, we remain at its mercy. When we numb ourselves to avoid it, we also numb ourselves to joy, connection, and meaning. But when we turn toward it with consciousness and curiosity, we discover that it contains precisely the energy needed for our growth. And perhaps this is what we're really seeking when we wish to never feel hurt again, not the absence of pain, but the presence of meaning that transforms our relationship to it. Jung understood that the journey toward wholeness isn't linear or easy. There is no linear evolution, he wrote. There is only a circumambulation of the self. We circle back to similar themes and triggers throughout our lives, but with growing awareness, each encounter offers the opportunity for deeper healing and integration. The promise isn't that you'll never feel hurt again, but that you'll develop the inner resources to meet hurt differently, not as a threat to be avoided at all costs, but as a messenger, guiding you toward greater wholeness. And in that transformation lies true freedom, not freedom from pain, but freedom within it. The freedom to remain present with all of your experience, to choose your response rather than react unconsciously, to continually unfold into the person you're meant to become. As Jung so beautifully expressed it, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. The path to never feeling hurt in the same way again begins with the courage to look within, and that journey, challenging as it may be, offers the greatest reward imaginable, the chance to become fully yourself.